The stars looked different from the bridge of the New Horizon. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the main window, watching the bright sun of the Kepler 442 system grow larger as they approached. Behind him, 50,000 people slept in the colony, ship's massive chambers, dreaming of their new home. Jake had been making this journey for 3 years. 3 long years of traveling through deep space, moving from one star system to another, searching for a place where humans could build a new life. The people on his ship were not soldiers or explorers, they were families, teachers and farmers, doctors and engineers, children and grandparents. They all wanted the same thing, a peaceful world where they could live and grow. "Captain, we're getting close to the planet," said Ryan Brooks from his seat at the navigation controls. Young, maybe 25, with bright eyes that always seemed excited about their journey. "The computers show it has water, good air, and land perfect for farming." Jake nodded and smiled. After 3 years of searching, they had finally found what looked like the perfect world. The planet was green and blue from space, with white clouds moving across its surface. It looked like Earth, but cleaner and more beautiful. "Wake up the senior staff," Jake said. "Let them know we'll be there in 6 hours." But their happiness did not last long, as the New Horizon moved closer to the planet. Ryan's instruments began showing something strange. There were ships near the planet. Big ships. "Ships that did not look human, Captain," Ryan said, his voice now worried. "I'm seeing 12 large vessels in orbit around the planet. They don't match any human designs in our computer." "Ain't." Jake felt his stomach drop. They had traveled so far, used so much fuel, and brought so many people who were counting on finding a home. Now it looked like someone else was already here. "Try to contact them," Jake ordered. "Let them know we come in peace." Ryan worked at his controls for several minutes, sending messages on different frequencies. Finally, a response came back. The voice that spoke was cold and harsh, with sounds that no human throat could make. "Human vessel, you are entering Zephyrian space without permission. Turn around and leave immediately." Jake stepped forward too. The communication system. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human colony ship New Horizon. We have 50,000 people aboard looking for a new home. We mean no harm to anyone. Can we speak about sharing this system?" The alien voice laughed, but it was not a friendly sound. "Humans do not negotiate with the Zephyrian Empire. You are a weak species that has barely learned to travel between stars. Leave now, or we will make you leave." On the main screen, the alien ships became visible. They were huge, much larger than the New Horizon, and covered in weapons. They looked like they were built for war, not exploration. The ships moved toward them with frightening speed. Jake's hands began to shake. He had been a ship captain for 15 years, but he had never faced anything like this. The Zephyrians clearly had better technology and more powerful weapons. The New Horizon was built to carry people and supplies, not to fight. "Sir," said Lisa Parker, the ship's chief engineer. Lisa was a smart woman in her 30s, who could fix anything that broke on the ship. "Maybe we can ask them to let us just get supplies and fuel. We have sick people who need medical care." Jake nodded. It was worth trying. He spoke into the communication system again. "Zephyrian Commander, we understand this is your space. We're not asking to stay. We just need to get fuel and medical supplies for our sick people. Then we will leave and never return." The silence lasted for almost a minute. Then the alien voice came back, even colder than before. "The Zephyrian Empire does not help weak species. Your request shows that humans are pathetic creatures who cannot take care of themselves. Commander Vex Korath of the Zephyrian fleet will now teach you what happens when inferior beings enter our space." The attack came without warning. Energy beams shot from the alien ships and hit the New Horizon's engines. The whole ship shook like an earthquake. Lights went out and came back on. Alarms started ringing everywhere. "Damage report." Jake shouted over the noise. "They hit our main engines," Ryan called back. "We can't use our hyperdrive. We're stuck." Here, Jake could not believe what was happening. They had asked for help, offered to leave peacefully, and the aliens had attacked them anyway. 50,000 innocent people were now trapped in enemy space. Lisa Parker stood up from her station. "Captain, let me try to talk to them. Maybe as an engineer, I can explain our technical problems and ask for help fixing our ship." Jake wanted to say no. These aliens had already shown they were dangerous. But Lisa was brave and smart, and maybe they would listen to technical talk better than requests for mercy. "All right," Jake said. "But be very careful with your words," Lisa spoke. "Into the communication system. Sifarian Commander, this is Engineer Lisa Parker. Your attack has damaged our life support systems. We have children and old people aboard who will die if we cannot make repairs. As one engineer to another, surely you understand that innocent lives should not be lost over politics." The response was immediate and terrible. "Weak human, you dare to speak to Commander Korath as an equal. You will learn respect." The energy beam that hit the New Horizon this time was different. It was precise and targeted. Jake watched in horror as it struck. The section where Lisa was standing, the light faded. Lisa Parker was gone. The brave engineer who had only tried to save lives had been murdered for asking for help. The alien voice spoke one final time. "Let this be a lesson to all humans. The Zephyrian Empire shows no mercy to inferior species. Leave our space now, or we will destroy your entire ship." Jake stared at the empty space where Lisa had been standing just moments before. Around him, his crew looked shocked and terrified. 50,000 people were counting on him to keep them safe. But he had just watched a good woman die for trying to help. The Zephyrian ships moved away from the New Horizon, leaving the damaged human vessel alone in space. They had made their point. Humans meant nothing to them. Human lives had no value. But as Jake Morrison looked at his frightened crew and thought about the message he would have to send to the families aboard his ship, something began to change inside him. The Zephyrians thought they had taught humans a lesson about weakness. They had no idea what they had actually done. They had just made 50,000 humans very, very angry. The silence on the bridge of the New Horizon was broken only by the soft beeping of damaged systems. Captain Jake Morrison stood where Lisa Parker had been just minutes before. The metal floor was still warm from the alien weapon that had killed her. Captain Ryan Brooks said quietly, "What do we tell the families?" Jake closed his eyes. 50,000 people were sleeping in the ship's living areas. They had trusted him to bring them safely to a new world. Now he had to tell them that their journey was over, their ship was broken, and one of their best people was dead. "We tell them the truth," Jake said. "All of it." The ship's communication system reached every room and hallway. When Jake's voice came through the speakers, people stopped what they were doing to listen. Children playing in the recreation areas became quiet. Adults working in the ship's factories put down their tools. "This is Captain Morrison speaking to everyone aboard the New Horizon. We have reached the Kepler 442 system, but we have encountered a problem. The planet we came to settle is controlled by an alien race called the Zephyrians. They've ordered us to leave their space." Jake paused, trying to find the right words. "The Zephyrians have damaged our engines. We cannot use our hyperdrive to travel to another star system. Our chief engineer, Lisa Parker, was killed when she tried to negotiate with them for repairs." The sound that went through the ship was like a wave of pain. People gasped, cried out, and began talking all at once. Lisa had been loved by everyone. She had fixed their air systems, their water recyclers, and their food machines. She had kept them all alive during the long journey. "I know you're scared and angry," Jake continued. "I am too. But we must focus on survival. We will find a way home. We will not let Lisa's death be meaningless." In the ship's medical center, Dr. Helen Carter was treating people injured in the attack. Helen was a woman in her 50s who had been a doctor for 30 years. She had seen broken bones, diseases, and accidents, but she had never seen a war wound before. "How many people were hurt?" asked Pete Adams, the ship's chief engineer. Pete was a big man with strong hands who had worked on machines his whole life. Now he was trying to figure out how to fix a ship damaged by alien weapons. 12 people with burns, 6 with broken bones from being thrown around when the ship shook, Helen said. "But we're lucky. If they had hit the living areas instead of the engines, hundreds would be dead." Pete nodded, and looked at his computer screen. The damage was bad, but not impossible to fix. I can get life support working at full power in 2 days. The engines will take longer. Be 2 weeks for basic movement. But the hyperdrive ... TOS. He shook his head. We need parts I don't have. How long to reach the nearest human colony without hyperdrive? Helen asked. 18 months if we're lucky. Maybe longer. Helen felt her heart sink. 18 months with limited supplies and no way to get help. Some of the older people and sick children might not survive that long. In the ship's school, teacher Maria Santos was trying to calm down frightened children. 10-year-old Amy Foster was crying because she was scared. Her 8-year-old brother Danny was trying to be brave, but his hands were shaking. Miss Santos, Amy said, "Are the bad aliens going to come back and hurt us?" Maria put her arm around Amy. "No, sweetie. They told us to leave, and we're going to leave. They won't bother us anymore." But Maria was not sure if that was true. Had heard the alien voice over the communication system. It had sounded cruel and mean. It's like someone who enjoyed hurting others. In the ship's communication center, Ryan Brooks was working on something that might help them. He was trying to listen to the aliens' radio messages to learn more about them. Captain Ryan called out when Jake arrived. "I've been picking up Zephyrian communications. They're not trying to hide what they're saying." "What are they talking about?" Jake asked. Ryan's face was grim. "They're talking about other human ships. 2 exploration vessels that came through this area in the past year. The Zephyrians destroyed both of them." Jake felt sick. "Survivors? They took some as slaves. The rest..." Ryan could not finish the sentence. Jake understood. Lisa Parker was not the first human the Zephyrians had killed. She would not be the last if they kept treating humans like insects to be stepped on. "There's more," Ryan said. "They're planning to hunt down every human ship that enters this part of space. They want to make sure no humans ever come back." Jake walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other humans were traveling through space, not knowing that the Zephyrians were waiting to kill them. The aliens thought humans were weak and easy to destroy. "Keep listening," Jake told Ryan. "Record everything they say. We're going to need evidence." While the adults worked on repairs and planning, the children aboard the New Horizon were learning to live with less. Food was now rationed, which meant smaller meals. Water was recycled more carefully. Even the lights were dimmed to save power. Foster learned to eat only half of what she was used to. Danny Foster learned to take shorter showers. Their parents, Bob and Carol Foster, tried to keep their children happy while hiding their own fears. But children are smart. They could see the worry in their parents' eyes. They could hear the adults talking in quiet voices about problems and dangers. They knew something was very wrong. "Dad," Amy asked one evening, "why did the alien people hurt Miss Lisa?" Bob Foster looked at his daughter and tried to think of an answer that would not give her nightmares. "Some people think they're better than others. They think they can hurt people who are different from them. But that's not right," Danny said. "No, son, it's not right at all." As the weeks passed, the humans on the New Horizon began to change. They stopped complaining about small problems. They helped each other more. They shared what little they had without being asked. Pete Adams and his team worked 18 hours a day to repair the engines. Dr. Helen Carter stretched their medical supplies to last as long as possible. Maria Santos taught the children how to grow vegetables in small spaces to help with food, but most importantly, they began to plan. Jake Morrison spent hours with his senior staff, not just planning how to get home, but planning what to do when they got there. "We have to warn Earth about the Zephyrians," Jake said during one meeting. "Other human ships are going to come this way. The government needs to know that there's a hostile alien empire out here," Pete agreed. "An empire that kills humans. For sport, we need to send a message," Helen said quietly. "Let our people know what happened to Lisa." Jake nodded. The automated distress beacon was already broadcasting their location and situation. But they would send more than just a call for help. They would send a warning about the Zephyrians and their cruelty. As the New Horizon slowly limped toward human space, its crew did not know that their message had already been received. On Earth and on human colonies throughout the galaxy, people were reading about the attack on peaceful colonists and the murder of Lisa Parker. The Zephyrians thought they had crushed a weak species and taught humans to fear them. They thought humans would run away and never return to their space. They had no idea that humans were different from other species. They had no idea that humans remember their dead. They had no idea that humans become very dangerous when someone hurts their family. The Zephyrians had just made the biggest mistake in their empire's history. They had made 50,000 humans angry, and those 50,000 humans were going home to tell their story to 60 billion more. The message from the New Horizon reached Earth on a quiet Tuesday morning. The automated distress beacon had been broadcasting for 6 months, but it took that long for the signal to cross the vast distance between stars. President Claire Hamilton was having breakfast in her office when Admiral Sam Tucker knocked on her door. Sam was a tall man with gray hair who had served in the Human Defense Fleet for 30 years. He had fought pirates and smugglers, but he had never seen anything like this. "Madam President," Sam said, his voice tight with anger, "we have a problem." Claire looked up from her morning reports. "What kind of problem?" Sam placed a data pad on her desk. The New Horizon colony ship was attacked by aliens 6 months ago. 50,000 civilians. 1 crew member was murdered during negotiations. The ship is damaged and trying to get home. Claire felt her blood turn cold. She had signed the papers approving the New Horizon mission. She had met with some of the families before they left. Children had given her drawings of what they hoped their new world would look like. "How bad is the damage?" she asked. "They're traveling at sublight speed. It will take them another year to reach safe space, if they make it at all." Sam's hands were clenched into fists. "Madam President, they executed an engineer who was asking for medical help. These aliens killed a woman for trying to save sick children." Claire stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the city of New Geneva, where people were going about their normal lives. They had no idea that humans had been attacked by aliens who saw them as insects to be crushed. "What do we know about these aliens?" she asked. "They call themselves the Zephyrian Empire. From what we can tell, they controlled dozens of star systems. They've enslaved other alien species and destroyed anyone who resisted them." Claire turned back to Sam. "What are our options? We can send a rescue fleet to help the New Horizon get home, but Madam President, I think we need to do more than that. These Zephyrians think they can murder humans and get away with it. They think we're weak. What are you suggesting?" Sam looked her straight in the eye. "I'm suggesting we show them they're wrong." Within hours, the news had spread across human space. On Mars, workers in the mining colonies stopped their jobs to watch the news reports. On Europa, the ice farmers gathered around their radios to hear about the attack. On the lunar cities, people stared at screens showing pictures of Lisa Parker, the engineer who had died trying to save lives. The reaction was immediate and powerful. Humans who had never agreed on anything suddenly had the same opinion. Zephyrians had crossed a line that should never be crossed. They had attacked innocent people and murdered someone who was asking for help in the shipyards above Earth. Workers who built peaceful exploration ships began receiving new orders. The designs they were given were different from anything they had seen before. These ships were built for war. Dr. Kevin Ross worked in a laboratory on Luna, studying alien technology that humans had found over the years. He was a quiet man who had spent his life trying to understand how other species built their machines. Now he was using that knowledge to build weapons. "The Zephyrians use energy shields to protect their ships," Kevin explained to his team. "Every shield has a frequency. If we can find the right frequency, we can punch through their defenses." His assistant, Dr. Susan Lee, looked at the test results. "How long do you think it will take?" "Give me 3 months," Kevin said. "I'll give you weapons that can crack their shields open like eggs." In the engineering centers on Mars, Carla West was designing a new type of ship. Carla was young, maybe 30, but she was one of the best ship designers in human space. Had always built ships for exploration and trade. Now she was building ships for war. "The Zephyrian ships are big and powerful," she told her team. "They're used to fighting other big ships. But what if we don't fight fair? What if we build ships that are small and fast, like hornets attacking a bear? Her designs showed sleek fighters that could move quickly and strike hard. They were not as tough as the big Zephyrian ships, but they did not need to be. Just needed to be fast enough to get in, hit hard, and get out. Meanwhile, Ambassador Frank Ellis was working on a different kind of weapon. Frank was a diplomat who had spent years meeting with alien species. He knew that the Zephyrians had enemies, other species that had been hurt by the Empire. "We need allies," Frank told President Hamilton during a video call. "The Zephyrians have been bullying other species for centuries. If we can unite their enemies, we can fight back." "What species are you thinking about?" Claire asked. "The Evrons are bird-like people who used to control 3 star systems before the Zephyrians conquered them. The Deeps are water-breathing people who had their ocean worlds taken. The Vorthok are crystal beings who were enslaved to work in Zephyrian mines?" Frank pulled up pictures of the different alien species. "They all have reasons to hate the Zephyrians. They all want their freedom back. We can show them that humans are willing to fight. They might join us." The preparations took months. Humans worked harder than they had ever worked before. Factories that had been closed for years were reopened. Scientists who had been studying peaceful things were asked to develop weapons. Young people who had planned to be teachers or doctors signed up to be soldiers. But the most important preparation was happening in the minds of humans everywhere. For the first time in their history, humans were united by anger. They were angry at the Zephyrians for attacking innocent people. They were angry at the murder of Lisa Parker. They were angry at the idea that aliens thought humans were weak. Admiral Tucker was given command of the largest fleet in human history. 200 ships, from massive battleships to small fighters. 50,000 sailors and Marines, all volunteers who wanted to make the Zephyrians pay for what they had done. Admiral President Hamilton said during his final briefing, "I want you to understand something. This is not just about rescuing the New Horizon. This is about showing the galaxy that humans will not be pushed around." "I understand, Madam President," Sam replied, "but I need to know how far you want me to go. Are we just trying to scare them, or are we going to war?" Claire thought about Lisa Parker, trying to save sick children, and being murdered for it. She thought about 50,000 colonists, including children, stranded in enemy space. She thought about other human ships that might encounter the Zephyrians in the future. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I want you to make sure that no alien species ever thinks about attacking humans again. Do whatever it takes." The Zephyrians were watching human space through their spy networks. They saw the ships being built and the weapons being tested. Commander Vex Korath, who had killed Lisa Parker, laughed when he heard the reports. "But pathetic humans are building toys," he told his officers. "They think their primitive weapons can challenge the Zephyrian Empire. Let them come. We will destroy them all and show the galaxy what happens to species that dare to challenge us." But Korath and his people did not understand humans. They thought humans were like other species they had conquered, who fought with honor and followed rules. They did not know that humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years and had learned every dirty trick in the book. They did not know that humans would sacrifice anything to protect their families. They did not know that humans could be creative and unpredictable in ways that other species could not imagine. Most importantly, they did not know that humans had a saying, "Never make humans angry. You will not like what happens next." The Zephyrians were about to learn that lesson the hard way. Admiral Tucker's fleet was ready. The weapons were loaded. The ships were fueled. The crews were trained and angry. The storm was coming, and the Zephyrians had no idea how bad it was going to be. Admiral Sam Tucker stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Earth's Thunder, as it dropped out of hyperdrive at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Behind him came 200 human ships, the largest war fleet in human history, but they were not alone. Flying alongside the human vessels were ships from 3 other alien species. The bird-like Avrons had sent their fastest fighters. The water-breathing Deeps had brought their heavy cruisers. The crystal beings called Vorthok had ships that could jam enemy communications. For the first time in centuries, the Zephyrian Empire faced a united enemy. Admiral called out Captain Steve Morgan from his position at the weapons console. "We're detecting the New Horizon. She's still alive, sir. Still trying to get home." Sam felt relief wash over him. After 18 months of slow travel, Captain Morrison and his 50,000 colonists were still fighting to survive. "Send them a message. Tell them help has arrived." On the damaged colony ship, Jake Morrison could barely believe what he was seeing on his screens. Human warships filled the space around them, more ships than he had ever seen in one place. After months of feeling alone and helpless, suddenly they had protectors. "Captain Morrison," came Admiral Tucker's voice over the radio. "This is Admiral Tucker of the Human Defense Fleet. We're here to take you home. But first, we have some business." To finish with the Zephyrians, Jake smiled for the first time in months. "Picard, this is Jake Morrison. We're ready to go home. But be careful. Zephyrians have powerful ships and no mercy." "Don't worry, Captain," Sam replied. "We've learned a few new tricks." The Zephyrian fleet was waiting for them near the planet, just as Admiral Tucker had expected. Commander Vex Koroth had assembled 150 warships. He was confident that his superior technology would crush the human fools. The Zephyrian ships were huge and covered with weapons that could destroy planets. "Attention, human fleet," came Koroth's voice over the communication system. "You have entered Zephyrian space without permission. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick." Admiral Tucker picked up his microphone. "Commander Koroth, this is Admiral Tucker. You murdered one of our people and attacked innocent civilians. They're here to make you pay for that mistake," Koroth laughed. "Foolish humans. Your pathetic ships cannot stand against the might of the Zephyrian Empire. Watch as we destroy you like the insects you are." The battle began with both fleets firing their biggest weapons at long range. The Zephyrian ships had stronger shields and more powerful guns, just as everyone expected. Their energy beams lit up space like artificial suns, and several human ships were damaged in the first few minutes, but then the human strategy began to unfold. Captain Steve Morgan led a group of small fighters directly into the Zephyrian formation. The tiny ships moved like wasps around the giant alien vessels, too small and fast for the big guns to hit. Steve's fighters carried Dr. Kevin Ross's new weapons, designed to punch through Zephyrian shields. "Remember," Steve told his pilots over the radio, "hit them fast and get out. Don't try to be heroes." The human fighters swarmed around a Zephyrian battleship, firing their special weapons at the same spot on its shields. One shot did nothing. 10 shots weakened the shield. 20 shots broke through completely, and the fighters' missiles found the ship's hull. The Zephyrian ship exploded in a ball of fire. Commander Koroth could not believe what he was seeing. "How are their primitive weapons getting through our shields?" But the humans were just getting started. Lieutenant Nicole Hayes was in charge of electronic warfare, using computers to attack Zephyrian systems. She had studied their technology for months, learning how their ships worked. "Jamming their sensors now," Nicole reported to Admiral Tucker. "They can't see our small ships anymore." The Zephyrian gunners found themselves shooting at ghosts. There. Computers showed targets that were not there. While the real human fighters attacked from directions they did not expect, Commander, Bill Taylor led the human Marines in the most dangerous job of all. When Zephyrian ships were damaged, Bill's men would board them and fight the aliens face to face. The Zephyrians were bigger and stronger than humans, but they had never fought an enemy that refused to give up. "Keep pushing forward," Bill shouted to his Marines as they fought through a Zephyrian ship. "Remember Lisa Parker? Remember what they did to our people." The Marines fought with a fury that terrified the Zephyrians. Even when wounded, humans kept fighting. Even when outnumbered, they found ways to win. They used weapons. The Zephyrians had never seen tactics that made no sense, and a determination that seemed impossible. The alien allies joined the battle with their own special abilities. Aviran pilots flew circles around the clumsy Zephyrian fighters, their bird-like reflexes making them almost impossible to hit. Deep ships attacked like schools of fish, coordinating their movements perfectly. The Vorthok used their crystal technology to disrupt Zephyrian communications, making it impossible for enemy ships to work together, Captain Laura Price commanded. A human destroyer that had lost its engines and life support. Any sane person would have abandoned ship. Instead, Laura ordered her crew to ram the nearest Zephyrian cruiser. If we're going down, she told her people, we're taking them with us. The human ship smashed into the alien vessel, destroying both. Laura and her crew died, but they took 300 Zephyrians with them. Colonel Jeff Stone was leading ground troops on the planet's surface, fighting to capture Zephyrian bases. His soldiers were outnumbered 3-1, but they held positions that should have been impossible to defend. Sir, one of his sergeants said, we're almost out of ammunition. Then we'll use rocks, Jeff replied. We're not giving up this ground. The most shocking thing to the Zephyrians was that humans seemed to get stronger as the battle went on. Where other species would retreat after taking heavy losses, humans kept attacking. Where other species would surrender when faced with impossible odds, humans found new ways to fight. Commander Korath watched his mighty fleet being torn apart by creatures he had thought were weak and primitive. Human ships were exploding, human soldiers were dying, but for every human that fell, 2 Zephyrians died. And the humans never stopped coming. This is impossible, Korath said to his officers. No species fights like this. No species refuses to surrender when they are losing. But his officers had no answers. They had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved multiple species, but they had never fought an enemy like humans. Other species fought with honor and followed rules. Humans fought to win, no matter what it took. The tide of battle turned when the Aviran fighters broke through the Zephyrian fleet's defensive line. Suddenly, human ships were attacking from all directions. The carefully organized Zephyrian formation fell apart as captains tried to save their own ships instead of working together. Admiral Tucker saw his chance. All ships concentrate fire on their command vessel. Take out Korath, 200 human, and alien ships turned their weapons on Commander Korath's flagship. The massive Zephyrian battleship tried to run, but it was too late. Human fighters swarmed around it like angry bees. Deep cruisers hit it with their heaviest weapons. Orthox ships jammed its defenses. The ship that had murdered Lisa Parker died in flames. But Korath himself survived, escaping in a small ship toward the planet. Admiral Tucker followed him down, determined to face the alien commander who had started this war. The final battle was about to begin, and this time it would be personal. Admiral Sam Tucker's ship landed on the planet's surface with a crash that shook the ground. Through the smoke and flames, he could see Commander Vex Korath's escape pod in the distance. The Zephyrian who had murdered Lisa Parker was trying to reach a hidden base in the mountains. Sam climbed out of his damaged ship with a team of Marines. Above them, the space battle was ending. Burning Zephyrian ships fell from the sky like dying stars. The mighty empire that had terrorized this part of the galaxy for centuries was finally losing. Admiral, called Sergeant Tony Clark, Weave, got movement ahead. Zephyrian ground forces are trying to protect their commander. Sam picked up his rifle and checked his ammunition. Then we go through them. The human Marines moved across the rocky ground with determination. They had traveled across the galaxy to settle this debt. Every step brought them closer to the alien. Who thought humans were weak insects to be crushed? Korath was waiting for them at the entrance to an underground bunker. The Zephyrian commander was 8 feet tall, covered in thick scales, and armed with weapons that could cut through steel. Around him stood 50 of his best soldiers, all ready to die protecting their leader. So the pathetic humans have come to face me? Korath said, his voice full of hatred. Good. I will enjoy killing you slowly, just like I killed your engineer. Sam stepped forward, his weapon lowered. Korath, by the authority of the Human Defense Fleet and the Galactic Alliance, I place you under arrest for the murder of Lisa Parker and crimes against peaceful civilians. Korath laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. Arrest? You think you can arrest me? I am a Zephyrian commander. I do not surrender to inferior species. Then you can die, Sam said quietly. The battle was short but fierce. Human Marines fought Zephyrian soldiers hand to hand, using knives, fists, and anything else they could find. The aliens were bigger and stronger, but the humans fought with a fury that made up for their smaller size. Sam found himself facing Korath alone. The Zephyrian commander was a skilled warrior who had killed dozens of enemies in personal combat. His claws could tear through armor, and his strength could break human bones. But Sam was fighting for more than just victory. He was fighting for Lisa Parker, who had died trying to save sick children. He was fighting for 50,000 colonists who had suffered for months in a damaged ship. He was fighting for every human who might encounter the Zephyrians in the future. "Your people made one mistake," Sam said as he dodged Korath's claws. "You thought humans were like other species. You thought we would run away when you hurt us." Korath swung his massive arm, trying to crush Sam's head. The human ducked and struck back with his combat knife. "Humans are weak. You die easily." "Yes, we die easily," Sam agreed, landing another blow. "But we remember our dead. We never forgive those who murder innocents." The fight lasted for 10 minutes. Korath was stronger and had better weapons, but Sam was faster and smarter. More importantly, Sam was fighting for something bigger than himself, while Korath was only fighting for his own life. In the end, it was human determination that won. When Korath thought he had Sam beaten, the human admiral found strength he did not know he had. When the Zephyrian commander made one final attack, Sam was ready. Korath fell to the ground, defeated by a species he had thought was beneath him. "This is for Lisa Parker," Sam said quietly. With their commander dead and their fleet destroyed, remaining Zephyrians surrendered. The mighty empire that had ruled this part of space for centuries was broken in a single day. Captain Jake Morrison and his colonists were finally rescued. The New Horizon was towed to a human shipyard where it could be properly repaired. The families who had suffered for 18 months in space were taken to medical facilities where they could recover. But the story did not end there. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy faster than the fastest ships. Species that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians began to rebel. Worlds that had been conquered started fighting for their freedom. The empire that had seemed so powerful crumbled like a house of cards. Ambassador Frank Ellis worked with the newly freed alien species to establish a new government. The Galactic Federation was born from the ashes of the Zephyrian Empire, with humans playing a central role as protectors of the weak. "We will not become conquerors," President Claire Hamilton told the First Federation Assembly. "We will not replace one empire with another. We will stand guard so that no species ever again has to face what we faced." The Federation's first law was simple. Any attack on innocent civilians would be met with the full force of the Alliance. The galaxy had learned that humans might be slow to anger, but once aroused, they became something terrifying. Years later, Captain Jake Morrison became the governor of the colony on Kepler 442. The world that had once been controlled by the Zephyrians became a symbol of human determination and alien cooperation. The first city built there was named Parker's Landing, in honor of the engineer who had died trying to save lives. On the anniversary of Lisa's death, Jake would take his young daughter to visit the memorial built in the city center. The memorial. It was simple, just a statue of a woman in an engineer's uniform, with words carved in stone beneath it. "Here lies Lisa Parker, who died asking for help for the innocent." Her death was not in vain. It reminded the galaxy that humans protect their own. Jake's daughter would always ask the same question. "Daddy, why did the bad aliens hurt Miss Lisa?" And Jake would always give the same answer. "Because they thought humans were weak, sweetheart. They thought we would run away when they hurt us. They learned too late that hurting innocent people is the one thing you should never do to humans. Why not?" Jake would smile and point to the ships in the sky above them. Human ships, Aviran ships, Deep ships, and Vorthok ships, all working together to keep the peace. Because when you make humans angry, really angry, we become something the galaxy has never seen before. We become the thing that bullies fear most. What's that? We become the protectors of everyone who cannot protect themselves. The little girl would nod, not fully understanding but knowing it was important. Above them, the ships continued their patrol, making sure that no species would ever again have to face what the humans had faced. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Some species were peaceful by nature. Some were warlike. Some were clever, some were strong, some were fast. But humans were different. Humans were the species that would cross the stars to help strangers, but would burn worlds to protect their family. They were the species that forgave almost anything except cruelty to the innocent. Most importantly, humans were the species with a simple rule that every alien civilization now knew by heart: never make humans angry, will not like. What happens next? The Zephyrians had learned that lesson too late, but their defeat had saved countless other species from making the same mistake. In the end, that was Lisa Parker's greatest gift to the galaxy. Her death had awakened something in humanity that would protect the innocent for generations to come, and the galaxy was safer because of it.